Today, Saturday, May the 10th, I have finished my morning walk. Normally on Saturdays, I do a run, certainly when the weather looks like this. But today was a walk because yesterday afternoon was gorgeous and I decided to do my run yesterday. My legs are killing me, but nonetheless, today went out, did the walk, and this is my weekly summary. This is the Saturday episode where I kind of bring everything together for the week and just give you a summary of what happened, share some additional thoughts that I might have had. Just want to give a shout out to Adam Rossi, who's a fellow that I follow on Twitter. And a bunch of months back, I heard him say something about sharing his thoughts simply because he's done a lot of stuff. The way I heard it was he's done a lot of stuff in his life and thought that by being able to share what he's learned, that it might help other people. And given that I'm in the midst of trying to move my family around, spend some time in the US, spend some time in Spain, spend less time in Canada for a whole bunch of reasons, which I talk about every day, he was kind of I think that there are other people that might be considering the same thing or are doing the same thing. And maybe in what I'm sharing, I can get some feedback, but also maybe help them make decisions that they're struggling with as well. So thanks, Adam, for the inspiration and encouragement, because now I'm doing this and it's a thing. Quick business update, was able to get the incorporation, was able to open a US bank account, working on getting a US tax ID right now, which turns out to be kind of tricky. Need a certified copy of my passport and a lawyer that I found that thought maybe they could help me. They got a bunch of questions because I don't think I really need one. Anyway, it's like a whole thing. But thanks to Stripe Atlas, which is the app that I used to create a US entity, worked flawlessly. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Did our banking through Mercury, which another pretty seamless process, was pretty great. And that's because for the last couple of years, my startup has run on Stripe. And so I'm just sort of staying in the Stripe family, and it all seems to be really working well. Um, I talked a lot about sort of the generational things this week about the guff I was getting, Trump derangement syndrome, how people can't seem to have like a rational, or some people can't seem to have a rational conversation about what's happening. Spent a little bit of time talking about how the US appears to be moving up and into the right, how Spain seems to be just sort of steady state, and Canada seems to be, kind of down to the breaking through the floor of where we've been historically. And it's this idea, it's just hard to watch something great become less great. It's really, really hard to do that. And then I think this morning I just was trying to think through some of the questions I had. I had a couple of people who I know are listening, and they just sort of said, why does it matter if the US is up and into the right and Spain's flat and Canada's down into the right? Like, why does that really matter? And I got thinking about what does that mean as I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a business owner. And so, like, how does that play out in my life? This whole economic, cultural, societal changes that are happening, and why am I so insistent on trying to get out of where I am? And I think you think about Canada, and as a business owner, it gets harder and harder to hire good people or great people if you see most people are starting to go to work in public service, be it the government, firemen, policemen, what have you. When you see the workforce transition to public service, it means there's less people available in the private sector. And in the private sector, it's already hard enough managing all of the details that when you layer in not being able to get great people, then how that kind of trickles down into the general economy, I think, is that you get people who maybe care, excuse me, who care less, who, you go to a restaurant, certainly in our city, you go to a restaurant and you get really crappy service because no one really cares. And then you're asked to tip like minimum 20% or something like that. Just there's this overall interaction with the economy that happens where people just get worn down and nobody cares and no one's delivering anymore. And not because business owners don't want to create a business where they can deliver great service. It's just harder and harder to get people to care because their own personal situation is such that they're not making enough money. The world around them is very, very expensive, and it's just hard to get out of bed every day and want to be better than you were yesterday because it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. And that uphill battle takes the form of taxes, takes the form of bureaucracy, takes the form of political dissension, takes the form of a cup of coffee, apples, bananas, bread being more expensive. And you just feel like you're pushing up. And so that's why I think it matters. I think it matters when someone like me, I grew up in a Canada that has been declining, not in a Canada that's rising. versus say going into a Spain where the descent has already happened and I'm coming into Spain when it has already kind of hit rock bottom and is trying to bump along the bottom and recover. It's easier to get excited about what the future might look like. And then, of course, going into the United States where things are up and into the right, you just want to kind of catch that wave. So those are kind of some of the philosophical things. And then that kind of flows into how I look at my life as well. And I know that like there are value, people who create value, and there's people who destroy value. There are companies that create value, there are companies that destroy value. I think of uh, just as a really maybe lame example, but like I think of like the companies that produce soda pop, like they're companies that destroy value because what they do is they take the health of an individual for pennies and they put crap through that individual so that they can generate some economic benefit for themselves and their shareholders. But they leave that particular individual in a state of diabetes, obesity, yada, yada, yada. Versus, say, other people who go out into the marketplace and say an auto mechanic, he's trying to create some value. Someone bought an asset, that asset breaks down, they're able to pay the mechanic who can improve that asset or fix that asset so that they can go on to get to their job, take their kids to school, go to the grocery store. So, like, my mind thinks in these spheres of creating and destroying value. And when I look at um, the reasons for like baby boomers kind of hanging on to all their wealth or spending all of it or just destroying all of it, they're entitled to do that. They all think they worked hard. I think I work hard. What does it even really mean, working hard? I don't think it means anything. I think working hard is you've got ALS, you're in a wheelchair, you're a father of three, you can't provide for your family anymore. Like that's working hard. Me, I don't work hard. I get the benefit to do I have the benefit of being able to do the things I want. Baby boomers, for the most part, got to do the same thing, but they're looking to just to simply destroy value through trying to not turn it out and invest it into future generations, but just to consume it. And cool, good on you. You're entitled to do that. Not how I look at the world, but someone might say, well, then Dylan, how do you look at the world? And from the very first child I had, Lisa and I have always just had this view that everything we have is theirs anyway, theirs. And if we're blessed with a bunch of grandkids, it's going to be theirs too. So, like, I don't really own my home. I don't really own my business because, if it wasn't for the people that show up every day to work in the business, what do I really own anyway? Right? I mean, am I taking some risk? Sure. Am I getting a payoff for it? Sure. It doesn't mean that like I can't take it with me. I get hit by a car today and who I can't take it with me. So Lisa and I have always viewed everything through all of this is for our children anyway. And I have two older sons now, and the conversations with them are not so much, how are you going to go and provide for yourself out in an expensive world where you don't have the same opportunities I have had? Your cost of living isn't the same as what it was when I was younger. And so anything I have, if we as a family have this pool of resources, how can you use them to benefit yourself? How can you, add to the pile? How can you maybe take some of what we have, like an education, go get one, and then, go and build something for yourself on the back of or on the base of what we already have. And so unlike say a boomer generation, which really just thinks through consumption and kind of consuming and destroying everything they've built through that consumption. I look at it through like how much do I really need? I've got a really great life, so how can I use whatever I have to help other people? And so not only does it flow into how Lisa and I look at what we have for the benefit of our children and maybe how they can go and contribute productively to the economy and society, et cetera. But it also plays out in our business, in our little construction business. We never anticipated owning, much less growing. It looks like, one of our guys helping him build an actual labor business for the Latino community using our back office administration, deal flow to try and not only achieve our own goals, but to help him achieve his. It looks like hiring an accountant who says, look, I want to build a bookkeeping business and having our business be one of their first customers for a bunch of accounting work. So I look at the world through the lens of value creation and value destruction. And I see that when a country like Canada has more people going into public service, less people starting private companies, uh, it just feels like maybe there's a better place to burn some energy, and I'm not sure this is the place. So it was a week of just a lot of back and forth. I'm not going to continue sharing a lot of opinions about the generational stuff or the political environment or anything like that because I'm not sure it's super valuable. The reason I shared it is just to paint some colors so that as you continue to listen to our traveling path down, looking to be in the U.S. for half a year, get a E2 visa, start a business there, try to catch that wave of what's happening. While we go to Spain for minimum 90 days a year to try and be part of more of a life mission type objective, and then to, of course, still remain Canadians for a couple months out of the year to take care of some housekeeping stuff and continue to build a valuable business here that at least maybe now there's some like context for all of that. So anyway, it's been a good week. I kind of end every episode with is this a week where I stay or where I go and keep going down this path? And so far, all signs point to like let's just keep going.